What's going on, everybody? It's your boy God Set Me Free here. How to manage bickers and fights with your spouse. I'm here to give you 3, maybe 5, maybe 7 practical ways that you may be able to help deter a fight with your spouse, to help just get back the relationship, because the devil's just always trying to take footholds inside of relationships to get us to separate. Whether you're married, whether you're in a dating relationship or engaged, I believe that these practical tips can truly help diminish a lot of the fights that happen between you two. Now, I will never say that there's a surefire way to stop a fight, but I believe that these are good ways that we can help get back to a common ground, maybe a couple hours later or even right on the spot, to really help us just move past our issue and really start talking about how to help get rid of the devil in our lives instead of trying to figure out what's wrong with each other. And if anybody's telling you that they have a surefire way, run. Tell them like Jesus told Peter, get behind me, Satan. Other than Jesus himself, there are no sure ways to stop fighting in a relationship. It's just how we connect sometimes, and through fights and arguments, you might find and uncover love that you might have never known you had for some certain people in your life. So here's step 1. I think that this is a funny one. I've actually used this with many couples that I've ministered over the last couple years, and this is very simple. What you would do is, if you feel like you're in the middle of a fight, what I would tell you to do is, before you respond to whatever's being said, picture Jesus in front of you. So like literally picture the face of Jesus in front of as your spouse. And what I believe that would help you do is, it would help you choose the next couple words that come out of your mouth wisely. Ask yourself the question, what I'm about to say to my wife or my husband or my fiance or my boyfriend or girlfriend, would I say it to Jesus? I think that that's a surefire way to know whatever's about to come out of your mouth should be intentional love, and it should be grace and mercy and forgiveness versus the harsh words that we're so often ready to use in the time of battling. Practical number 2, I believe that this is something that you guys can practice anywhere, anytime, any place. I've actually done this with a couple in the middle of a parking lot because they couldn't see eye to eye on a certain disagreement that they were going through. So what we did is, Carla and I actually had them turn back to back. We had them turn back to back in the middle of the parking lot. We had them face just the open air and really start voicing out their concerns. And what happened was, instead of the arguing becoming about one another, it started to become about what the devil was doing to them. And it started to sound like a plea to God more than an argument to their spouse. And it helped them so much for that night, because what it meant for them was they no longer had to see the enemy within each other, and they saw the enemy out in the world. And what that did for them was it helped them find their own peace with the situation that they were going through. What it also did was it helped them kind of mellow out all the anger and feeling that they had inside of them. And what it did was it allowed them to revisit the topic in the future so that they will be able to have a very good, easy conversation when referring to the topic at hand. Number 3, Carla and I do this a lot of the times that we get into arguments, and this I believe is very important for all relationships. Have a safe word. What do I mean? If Carla and I are starting to get into an argument that we no longer are actually having a constructive conversation, we use a safe word. Whether it comes from me first or it comes from Carla, the safe word, what it does, it eliminates all conversation right there on the spot. We've heard this from the pastors that have done our premarital courses, pastors that we look up to, Pastor Cornelius and Heather Lindsay, shout out. And what it is basically, when all else has failed, you yell the word Jesus, you yell the word it takes 3, you yell the word help, you yell the word love, something that's going to trigger the other person to let them know the conversation is done and we will revisit this later. And the reason why this is so important for couples is because we tend to forget that sometimes our anger takes control of us and we say things that we don't necessarily mean. God unified you two, whatever stage you guys are in. If you guys are following Christ through this time, time, you know that He's ordained this. And we have to be mindful about what we say, because we know that we're supposed to be encouraging our spouse. And even if you don't use Christ in the scenario with your relationship, this still is good for you to have a safe word. You know, we honestly have to remember that the majority of the time that we're in a relationship, we have to speak life into somebody. Use a safe word. I promise you, it helps you kind of take the steam off. One person goes into one room, one person goes into the other, and you guys just cool off, regather your thoughts, and visit it in the future. Practical idea number 4, very simple. Forgive. How simple can that be? Yeah. That's probably the hardest thing to do. Honestly, guys, forgiveness is probably the easiest way to get out of an argument, out of a heated discussion, because it really leaves the opposite person no room to furthermore continue on in the argument. And it's hard, but it needs to be done. Whether it's done on the spot or whether it's done in the future, every battle needs forgiveness. And that's how we, as Christ followers, will continue to show love and show grace as Jesus shows us, because He forgives us every day for the things we do. So why not extend that offer to the person that you're going to be spending the rest of your life with? Idea number 5, a very, very, very important one. If you guys feel like you're just not getting anywhere and you guys are not able to get past this problem, bring somebody else in. Bring an elder in the Word. Bring somebody that's had experience in relationships. Ask to speak to them with your spouse in the room, because it will help. And I'm not talking therapy. I'm talking about just a conversation where you and your spouse can each present your points to the mediator, basically, and figure out where you guys can comply. I can tell you that we've done that, Carla and I, in our marriage about once or twice in the 5 or 6 months that we've been together, and it's truly helped. Where in the morning, both of us didn't feel like we would actually be doing anything with each other. We didn't feel like we would be even talking to each other for a couple hours. We get on the phone with one of our pastors, and he helps us rectify whatever we were fighting in about 15 to 20 minutes. Now, it may not be that easy for certain scenarios, but I do know that if you bring a third person into this equation, there's always a good chance that he will help you guys see the issues, see the pros and the cons, and also help you get past your problem. Idea number 6. Something very simple, but something that we rarely do a lot when it comes to fighting, is pray. Prayer works, guys. And if prayer is not part of your life right now and you're still trying to figure out whether this God thing is real, then at the same token, what I would tell you to do is take time to yourself and reflect. Take a silent moment in your life, whether it be in your car by yourself, whether it be in another room, whether it be just going to the beach or just doing something that gets you alone. Because what that does is it helps you to start to levitate thoughts inside of your mind that aren't always necessarily negative. Make sure, because I made this mistake a lot during my younger years, is don't put yourself in an atmosphere that's gonna keep you negative. I remember when I would fight with exes, or I would have bad situations with my parents or anything, I would go ahead and play sappy music, sad music, whether it be angry music, and I would let that fill my thoughts with much more rage than I had leaving the conversation. So remember to escape, but that escape needs to be something positive. So if you have the ability to feed yourself positivity without needing an influence from somewhere, then you go ahead and do that. But if you need that extra help, make sure you're listening to motivation, or you're listening to good music, you're listening to upbeat music that's gonna help you put you in a better mood. Now, for us that are about prayer, prayer works. I cannot tell you enough how much prayer works. And here's why. We are not going to be able to be the one-all solution for the problems that our wife or our husband has. Meaning, you may know what would help your wife or your husband fix the issues that are going on in their life, but they might not need to hear it from you. And you have to be okay with that. And that's where prayer comes in. If you pray to God and you ask God to help reveal the things in their life that they need some help with, I can almost guarantee that at some point in time, God's gonna answer that prayer, whether it be through another person, whether it be through their own time with God, or it could be something they encounter just from a third party, whether it be social media or something in a book. There's probably been 8 out of 10 times where there's something that I've wanted Carla to really uncover, whether it be about herself, about her relationships with people, or even her walk. And it comes from the most unexpected places. And I thank God for that, because I carried that burden where I thought I had to tell her, but I didn't. I just needed to let God know that this was on my heart, and I really wanted Carla to work on this, and I didn't want to be the one to come down on her to tell her, hey, you need to change, because that's not the way you help lift up your spouse. So again, make sure prayer is something that you do constantly, whether it be in the good times or the bad, because I can promise you they're going to help save your marriage, your relationship, and anything else that you encounter through your walk. And the last and final thing that would be on my heart right now is just spending time in the Word. There's nothing more gratifying to your relationship, to your spouse, than the time that you take to spend in the Word. And what I mean by that is, in the New Testament, we see how much Jesus shows us his love, and how much God showed his love to us through Jesus. The more and more you read about this love, it really starts to rub off on you. And because of it rubbing off on you, though it won't always stop a fight before it happens, but it will help deter it the moment it does. Because there's been times that Carla and I have almost been there, almost been ready to have an argument, but sometimes either one of us might just reflect on the Word, might reflect on a passage that we might have read that day, or just an influence that we saw that day, and we just walk away. We walk away from that so we don't let it happen. And that's what the Word can do for you. Let me read a passage of the Bible, something that a lot of you church folk might know, but sometimes we overlook it because it's said so much, but it really helps explain what love is. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 7. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It's not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. And that's powerful. And I encourage you to keep reading this passage over and over again, because there's so many times in our relationship that we're going to be faced with a lot of the things that go on in these 3 verses. We might not be patient one day. We might be jealous one day. We might be boastful one day, but we have to remind ourselves what love really is. And the demonstration of love has to do with what Jesus did for us. He died upon that cross so that we may be forgiven of the sins that we have committed in the past, and also the ones that we've yet to know about. And because of that love, and because of that grace, and because of that mercy, we can rest knowing that as long as we can continue to walk with Christ in our daily routines, then there's an opportunity for Christ to show up in us when the world starts to attack us. I believe with all my heart and soul that it will help rectify a lot of those situations that we find ourselves in while we're dating. And I hope that this message can truly lift you up and also lift up your partner. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching. Make sure to comment below if you guys have any tips, any ideas that you know I might have forgotten that could truly help a relationship in its struggles. As always, y'all, I love y'all so much. This is God Set Me Free. Continue to walk with me as we get closer to God and we get further away from this world. Later.